The wealthy cowboy had learned early that money could build walls faster than stone. His ranch sprawled across the plains like a kingdom, fences stretching to the horizon, cattle branded with a mark everyone in 3 counties recognized. People spoke his name with a mix of admiration and speculation, always followed by the same question: why hadn't he married? The town had theories: too proud, too cold, too wounded, but none of them knew the truth. He simply didn't trust promises anymore. Letters arrived every week, sometimes every day. Women from nearby towns, distant cities, even other states wrote to him, their words careful and hopeful. Some spoke of love they were sure would grow. Others spoke of partnership, of managing a household, of bearing heirs. A few were bold, promising devotion without question. He never opened them. He stacked them neatly, read the names on the envelopes, and fed them to the fire. Watching paper curl and blacken felt safer than letting expectations take root. It hadn't always been this way. Once, long ago, he had believed in choosing a future with someone else. That belief had cost him dearly. Since then, he preferred the certainty of land and livestock, of days measured by work instead of emotion. Out here, things made sense. Fences either stood or fell. Storms came whether you wanted them or not. Feelings, on the other hand, had a way of lying. That evening, the sky burned orange and purple as he finished his rounds. Dust clung to his boots, and the air carried the promise of cold. He was closing the main gate when he saw her, standing just beyond it, as still as if she'd grown there. She wasn't dressed like the women who usually came looking for him. No fine coat, no carefully pinned hair. Her clothes were worn but clean, her sleeves mended more than once. She carried no trunk, no bundle, nothing that suggested she meant to stay. He paused, hand resting on the gate, studying her with the same caution he used on a strange horse. She didn't wave, she didn't smile, she waited. Evening, he said at last. Evening, she replied. Her voice was steady, neither timid nor bold. He expected the usual next words: I'm here about the letters, or I was told you were looking for a wife. They never came. Instead, she glanced toward the house, then back to him. I was told there's a well on this land, she said. I won't trouble you, I just need water. The simplicity of it threw him off balance. He nodded toward the pump near the barn. There, she thanked him, quietly, and walked past without hesitation. He watched her shoulders as she moved, straight, determined, as if she'd learned the cost of appearing weak. She worked the pump with practiced efficiency, filled a small tin cup she'd pulled from her pocket, and drank slowly, eyes closed as if savoring something rare. Most people asked him for something the moment they arrived: work, money, protection, marriage. This woman asked for nothing that would bind him to her. When she finished, she wiped the cup on her sleeve and stood there, waiting, not presumptuous enough to assume permission, not fearful enough to beg. You headed somewhere? He asked. She met his gaze then, and he saw the fractures beneath her calm, the kind of broken that didn't shout. I'm heading away from where I was, she said. Anywhere else will do. He felt an unexpected tightening in his chest. He knew that kind of answer. It meant loss. It meant staying alive had become the only plan. He told himself it wasn't his concern. He had learned to keep distance. Distance kept things intact. You can camp near the bunkhouse for the night, he heard himself say. Storm's coming. She studied him, as if weighing the words for hidden costs. I don't need charity. It's not charity, he replied. It's weather. After a moment, she nodded once. Then I'll stay the night. As she walked toward the bunkhouse, he realized something unsettling. For the first time in years, someone had stepped onto his land without wanting a piece of his life. And that, more than any letter or promise, made him uneasy. She stayed because he didn't tell her to leave, and in that unspoken permission, a fragile routine began. Before dawn, while the ranch still slept under a thin veil of frost, he saw a light flicker in the bunkhouse window. By the time he stepped outside, she was already moving, hauling water, sweeping the threshold, tying back her hair with a strip of cloth as if preparing for a day she intended to earn. She didn't wait for instruction. She didn't ask what she was allowed to do. She simply found what needed doing and did it. At first, he kept his distance. Habit demanded it. He worked the far pastures, checked fences that didn't need checking, rode longer than necessary. From the corner of his eye, though, he noticed changes. The horses that shied from strangers stood calm when she passed. The old ranch dog followed her like he'd known her forever. Even the house, big, expensive, and hollow, seemed to settle, as if it had been holding its breath. They spoke little. When they did, it was about practical things. Where to stack firewood, which gate stuck in cold weather, how the creek swelled after rain. She listened carefully, nodding, asking questions only when they mattered. There was no flirtation in her manner, no attempt to soften her voice or posture to please him. It unsettled him more than charm ever could have. One afternoon, he found her in the tack room, mending a torn saddle strap with a needle she must have carried for years. Her fingers moved with confidence born of necessity. He leaned against the doorframe, watching. She looked up, surprised but not startled. I can stop, she said, already reaching to set the strap aside. No, he replied, it needs fixing. She nodded and returned to her work. The silence stretched, comfortable and strange. He realized then how rarely silence had felt shared in his life. Usually it was something he used to keep others out. With her, it felt like something they were standing inside together. As days passed, small details began to matter to him. The way she hummed when she thought no one was listening. The careful way she placed her boots by the door, always lined up, as if order were a promise she made to herself. The scars on her hands, not hidden, not displayed, marks of work, not recklessness. He wondered what had broken her, but he didn't ask. He sensed that asking too soon would shatter something fragile. The letters kept coming. He collected them from the gate and set them aside as he always had. One evening, she noticed the stack on the table, the names written in hopeful script. She didn't touch them. "They're not for me," she said, almost apologetic. "I know," he answered. That night, he burned them. The firelight flickered across her face as she watched, expression unreadable. When the last envelope turned to ash, she looked at him, not with gratitude, not with expectation, but with understanding. As if she knew the weight of letting go of what others thought you should want. She carried her brokenness quietly. It showed itself in the way she startled at raised voices from the radio, in how she sat with her back to the wall in unfamiliar rooms. Once, during a sudden clap of thunder, he saw her hands shake before she forced them still. He pretended not to notice. Respect, he was learning, sometimes meant looking away. In return, something in him began to loosen. He caught himself setting an extra cup by the coffee pot without thinking. He listened for her steps in the morning. The house no longer echoed the same way. It felt occupied, not just by body, but by presence. By intention. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the fields gold, they stood by the fence together, watching the cattle settle. She spoke then, voice soft but steady. "I don't need much," she said. "I never have." He looked at her, really looked, and understood that her wanting nothing was not emptiness, it was survival sharpened into restraint. She had learned to ask for less because asking for more had once cost her everything. "I won't ask you to stay," he said, surprising himself with the honesty of it. "But you can, if you want." She turned to him, eyes clear. "That's all I needed to hear." As night settled over the ranch, he realized the truth he'd been avoiding. The woman who wanted nothing had already given him something rare. Not demands, not promises, but the chance to choose again. Winter announced itself without ceremony, arriving on a wind that scraped the plains bare and left frost biting at every edge. The ranch changed overnight. Fields turned brittle, water froze in shallow pans, and the house, for all its size and expense, drew inward like a living thing seeking warmth. The woman met the season with the same quiet resolve she brought to everything else. She rose earlier, banked the fires higher, and learned the small rituals that kept cold from becoming danger. A storm came hard and sudden, sealing roads and trapping the world in white. By the second night, it was clear no one was leaving. The lamps glowed against the dark, and the fire threw long shadows that danced along the walls. They sat across from one another, the space between them smaller now, not closed, but acknowledged. The house no longer felt like a monument to wealth. It felt like shelter. She broke the silence first, hands wrapped around a mug. "I didn't come here looking for anything," she said. "I came here because I was done running." Her eyes stayed on the fire. "Where I was, I learned that wanting can be dangerous." He listened, jaw tight, understanding more than she knew. "I learned the same thing," he said. "Different road, same lesson." She told him then what she had lost, not in detail, not with drama, but plainly. A place that stopped being safe. Trust that had been used against her. The cost of rebuilding when you start from less than nothing. She spoke as if naming facts, not wounds. Still, the weight of it settled in the room. He didn't interrupt. He didn't offer to fix anything. He let the truth exist. When she finished, the fire cracked, and the wind battered the walls, as if arguing. He stood and added another log, watching sparks leap. "You can stay," he said at last. "Not as a favor, not as a solution, if you choose to." She looked up, meeting his eyes without fear. Choice had been rare in her life. She considered the house, the land, the work she'd already made her own. She considered the man who had asked nothing of her but honesty. "I'll stay," she said. "On my terms." He nodded. "On yours." Days stretched into weeks. The storm passed, leaving the world clean and sharp. They settled into something that wasn't named but was understood. They worked side by side. They argued once. About a fence line, of all things, and laughed after, surprised by how easy it felt to disagree and remain steady. He stopped burning letters. They stopped arriving. Word had a way of traveling. Spring came slowly, coaxed from the ground by patience. The woman planted a small garden behind the house, pressing seeds into soil as if setting intentions. He watched from the porch, a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the sun. One evening, as they walked the property line, she reached for his hand, not tentative, not desperate. Certain. He took it. It wasn't a grand declaration that changed him. It was the accumulation of ordinary days, the way she filled a room without trying, the way she asked for nothing and yet built something solid with her presence. He had rejected brides because he feared being wanted for what he could provide. With her, he was chosen for who he was when nothing was demanded. When he finally spoke the words, they were simple. "Stay for good," he said. Not an order, an invitation. She smiled, a real one, unguarded. "I already have." The ranch thrived. The house held laughter now, quiet and frequent. The man who had hidden behind wealth learned that love didn't need to be earned through sacrifice or sealed with promises. Sometimes, it arrived broken, asked for nothing, and taught you how to give without losing yourself.